Hello and welcome to the agenda. I am Ajay Kaul. In this program today we will discuss the merits of Centre's decision to withdraw 100 companies of paramilitary forces from Jammu and Kashmir. The Union Home Ministry has ordered immediate withdrawal of 100 companies of central paramilitary forces from Jammu and Kashmir. It seems the central government, through this latest decision, wants to give an impression that the situation in Kashmir has improved. But if we analyze the situation in recent weeks, there has been a spike in the terror attacks on security forces and political leaders and activists in Kashmir. The attacks on political leaders and activists particularly have created a fair psychosis among the political workers, several of whom have quit politics. So considering this situation, how good or bad is the decision of the central government? We will analyze this in the agenda today with our special guest, Mr. Kuldeep Khoda, former Director General of Jammu and Kashmir Police, who continues to closely monitor developments in the valley. But before we start the conversation, let us have a look at this small report.
The Union Home Ministry has taken a bold decision of withdrawing 100 companies of central paramilitary forces from Jammu and Kashmir. The decision was finalized after the MHA reviewed the deployment of the Central Armed Police Forces in the Union Territory. The companies from the CRPF, BSF, CISF and SSB will go back to their base locations in the country from where they were mobilized to the UT before the abrogations of Article 370 in August last year. The decision is bold considering the prevailing situation in Jammu Valley, where terror incidents have witnessed an increase recently. Over the last 1 month, terrorists have brazenly attacked security forces and targeted political leaders and activists. A number of sarpanches and other political activists have been killed, thus creating fear among political workers. Several political workers, especially those affiliated with the BJP, have announced dissociations from politics. Such is the fear that some of them even apologize publicly for being in politics. However, at the same time, the security forces have also achieved big success in anti-terrorism operations and a large number of terrorists have been eliminated. Director General of Police Dilbagh Singh said today that 26 top commanders of various terror outfits have been killed in the last 7 months, 4 of them in just last few days. Perhaps it is because of this high success rate in anti-terrorist operations that the central government was confident enough to withdraw the 100 companies of the central forces from the Union Territory. Bureau Report.
Let's welcome our special guest, Mr. Khoda. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you.
So let me first ask you about this decision of the central government to withdraw 100 companies of central paramilitary forces. How do you see this decision?
Increase in the presence of security forces or decrease of their numbers from time to time has been a regular process depending upon the situation. And our need has varied depending on in response to situation, our need has been varying. And especially at the time of elections, there has been large-scale pumping in of security forces or the annual Amarnath Yatra. But while I concede that variation in the security forces is to be done, but at the same time, I must emphasize that withdrawal of 100 companies, which were pumped in last year in view of the abrogation of Article 370 and 335A of the Indian Constitution. This has been a lump sum withdrawal. This variation is going to cause tremendous dilution of the security grid. But beyond that, these 100 companies were deployed in a manner essentially to prevent escalation in the law and order situations. When we take a lot of comfort in one of those often repeated announcements that the abrogation of Article 370 has not resulted in any deterioration of law and order, we must also appreciate that the role of the paramilitary forces and the police has been in forefront to ensure that law and order is maintained. And the withdrawal of the 100 companies in one go will be will pose challenges to the local police, and they will have to gear up. And we can only hope that we don't land in a situation that where we have to rush back the paramilitary forces back to Kashmir to prevent any deterioration of the situation.
Yeah, you rightly said that. Yeah, please go on.
I think the decision to withdraw this should have been a very considered thought, and not only the inputs of limited sections who deal with the security situation directly in Kashmir. I think the input should have been taken on a wider scale to get the viewpoint of all stakeholders, especially J&K police. Because ultimately, whatever the number of paramilitary forces are sent to J&K, they are primarily to assist the J&K police. The responsibility of ensuring maintenance of law and order or ensuring prevalence of peace as per the CRPC lies with the local police. The forces which come from center are there to assist the local police. So it will be quite challenging time. I am not very sure as to how the situation is going to develop after the withdrawal, but it will be quite testing time for the police now to face any organized attempt as was done in 2010 when the presence of the forces was much lesser. But pumping in of more forces did the job, and we were able to maintain absolute peace and calm in view of the withdrawal of 370 and 35A of the Indian Constitution from Jammu and Kashmir.
So, are you in any way trying to say that it is not a wise decision, but the while the MHA says that it was taken after consultations and after taking a due review, and I may add, in fact, there is a grim situation against the background drop of which it has been taken. As you have noticed that there have been there has been spike in terror attacks on security forces, and also political activities activists have been targeted. So, in that scenario, do you think that it was a wise decision to take?
I'm sure the MHA must have taken inputs or taken lots of factors into consideration while taking this decision. But I would have definitely preferred that the withdrawal could have been in a phased manner. Let's say 20 companies at a time over a period of few months, so that the local police could also get flexibility in adjusting to the gradual withdrawal of the forces and not land in a situation that they will have to face a situation in view of the fact that large number of pockets will be now left without presence of the forces which were maintaining law and order, and also strengthening the counter-terrorism grid in the process.
As you rightly, yeah. Please go on. Please go on.
And as far as the terrorist incidents are concerned, yes, there has been a considerable drop in the number of terrorist incidents for the last 2 years, especially. Our figures of number of incidents and the number of casualties of security forces, or for that matter, the number of terrorists also who got killed, has considerably dropped. Because we had to appreciate one situation
but may I interrupt here?
Yeah.
Over the last 1 month, there have been several attacks on security forces. CRPF personnel have been killed, and even political sarpanches and others have been targeted. So there has been spike. I'm coming to that.
Let me, I was coming to that point. while we have witnessed, but there has been concerted attempt in targeting the security forces. Over last week, around 20 security force personnel have been killed. So that is not something good. While it is not good for the security forces, it's not good for maintenance of security in the state, and on a larger scale, it is not good to generate the sense of confidence among the common people of the area of Kashmir. So we have to respond depending upon the developing situation. We cannot have decisions taken in a knee-jerk manner and suddenly create a vacuum of 100 companies, because the number of paramilitary forces which are deployed otherwise, including these 100 companies which are deployed, was not more than 200. So suddenly, if we reduce the strength by around 50%, or maybe more than 50%, I think, then the challenges will resurface, and the other side, which is not an ordinary opposition, in this armed opposition, it is not ordinary armed opposition. It's a well-trained force sponsored from Pakistan. The terrorists are trained in Pakistan and they are sent duly armed. And more than that, the financing of the terrorism network is on an extensive scale. We have not been able to really eliminate the funding of the terrorist organizations or the separatists. That's why they are still active and they are carrying on their usual business. Their shops are open. The shops, I mean, their business places, in the sense that they continue to finance their terrorist activities. They continue to finance the separatists who are carrying out the separatist agenda. They are continuing with their offices and other infrastructural needs like transport, manpower, their salaries. They continue to pay the families of the terrorists who have been killed since 1990.
Right.
And those things we have to always take into consideration. Financing and funding is sort of oxygen to any terrorist movement.
Very true, yeah.
As long as this pipeline is continuing, the terrorism is going to continue. We have not been able to target the source of terrorism. The source of terrorism is in Pakistan, whether it is the training camps, the launching pads, the places of their concentration, or the places where their brainwashing takes place, like
and intoxication in Kashmir also. Intoxication in Kashmir also. Intoxication in Kashmir also, in the valley.
The indoctrination and radicalization in Kashmir. The madrasas, role of madrasas. I may add the role of lots of educational institutions. The prime educational institution, which is the most prominent institution, that is Kashmir University. You find lots of radical statements still coming out.
Right.
It may not be they are coming out in public places and addressing the gathering. But if you see the social media, the Facebook,
they are the influencers.
They are all very active, and the venom and anti-national propaganda and pro-terrorist and pro-separatist agenda which is being carried on by educated people, that is in a way really unchecked. That's not getting addressed. So as long as we have the mechanism which is sustaining terrorism and separatist activities in Kashmir, including in Valley and its source in Pakistan, as long as they are active, they are sustaining, and they are sustainable by keeping their supply lines active, funding, arms, ammunition, training. I am afraid that we can't really get rid of terrorism in Kashmir. And if you ask me very frankly, the statistics speak for itself. If we compare the statistics, when I mentioned that the number of terrorist incidents or the number of security force personnel has got decreased over a period of time, during the last 2 years especially. But let me give you the exact position in that respect also. We had the lowest number of, the terrorism was at its lowest in 2012. Beyond that, after 2012, it kept on increasing, and by quite substantial numbers till 2018. In 2012, we had total number of incidents, terrorist incidents, which was just 124. And it increased to, in 2018, it increased fourfold, nearly fourfold to 430. And in 2019, it was around 350. And if you see the number of security forces killed, it was just 15. It had come down from a huge figure of 182 in 2006 to just 15. And these 15 included the army, the paramilitary forces, including BSF and CRPF and SSB, the policemen, the SPOs, the village defense committee members. All combined together, it was just 15. And in 2018, it had gone up to 95. About more than six-fold increase in the number of security force personnel killed. Last year, it had come down to 78. Still more than 5 times the number it was in 2012. And this year also, when we compare the number of security forces killed, it is comparable to 2020, though it's comparable to 2019, though it is lesser than that, which is a good thing. But what I'm trying to emphasize is that this is still a long way. We have not reached the level of containing the terrorism levels which was prevalent 8 years ago in 2012. And that way, a lot of work needs to be done. The approach has to be very calibrated. The withdrawals withdrawals of forces cannot be in, knee-jerk reactions in one go. That can sometimes result in serious situations. And the confidence of people, which got a huge boost after withdrawal of 370 and no incident taking place, no casualties of civilians taking place, that confidence can get shattered in case the situation goes, this withdrawal results into increase in the law and order problems. I am not sure whether J&K police was consulted in this regard. And in case it has not been consulted, I would strongly advise that J&K police viewpoint should have been considered and given due weightage while taking this decision.
So you have led the J&K police, and I think J&K police is one of the best forces, maybe like a paramilitary or maybe like an army, I call, because they have been conducting counter-terror operation on their own. So do you think J&K police strengthening them or maybe recruiting more personnel in the J&K police will be an answer to make up for this decrease in forces, paramilitary forces?
The response to the security situation has developed over a long period of time. Since 1990, when the situation suddenly broke out and there was huge problem suddenly on hands, we were caught unawares and gradually we developed a response. And ultimately, it resulted in formation of unified command. And the core group, which was a subordinate group to the unified command, and the core group, which consisted of the core commander of 15 corps in Kashmir and 16 corps in Jammu, and then the DGP, the head of the intelligence, the head of the CRPF in Kashmir, the head of intelligence in Kashmir in J&K, the head of the CRPF in J&K, the head of the police in J&K, the local intelligence agencies like CID chief, the intelligence bureau, the RAW chief in J&K, all these and other field officers who mattered, like Inspector General of Police Kashmir and Inspector General of Police Jammu. These people would meet very frequently and respond to their developing situation, coordinate their operations depending upon the intelligence inputs which were given from the local CID or from intelligence bureau or research and analysis wing, and also from the forces which are deployed on ground, like the police station or some army formations which were deployed extensively. So this coordinated approach had given tremendously good results, which resulted in a situation where out of 22 districts in Jammu and Kashmir, now we are reduced to 20 districts because of the Ladakh getting separate union territory status. Now, out of those 22 districts, 20 districts were free of terrorism. They were free of terrorists. And suddenly by 2016, we had a situation where almost entire Kashmir Valley 10 districts got re-involved in terrorism. And some areas in Jammu also, like Doda district, Kishtwar district, Ramban district, and even in Jammu district, incidents of terrorism started resurfacing. And then we had a breathing time between 2016 and 2018. And I'm glad that after 2018, the incidents have started coming down. But that was because of real planning. And I must also admit here that we cannot be keeping our eyes shut to the fact that the shutdown of 2019, when the movement was restricted after this application of 370, and it was followed by shutdowns or what we call lockdown after this COVID thing developed in March this year. This restricted the movement of people, and this also restricted the movement of terrorists also.
Yeah.
That also helped in reduction of incidents. But that's not to take away the credit of the J&K police and the army and the paramilitary forces who have done an excellent job in
containing it.
Getting some high-profile results in the anti-terrorist operations. But your basic question is that what I'm trying to say is that the results which have been achieved are a result of a coordinated action. It is not an individual force which can act independently and deliver the results.
No, what I believe is that J&K police is the basic which gets the sources, which gets the inputs and which leads the operations.
Absolutely.
Of course, with the help of army, but they lead the operations.
Absolutely, you are on line in the sense that J&K police has been providing a lot of almost nearly around 90% of 80 to 90% of intelligence for operations. Then we have the special operation groups.
Yes.
These combined with the local police station which provide the intelligence inputs, then combined with the manpower and firepower of the army and paramilitary forces, that is the combination which is working. So, trying to say that we should only reinforce the J&K police and forget about the role of the army or the paramilitary forces, then we can restore the situation to normalcy. That will be depriving the J&K police of the essential requirement of firepower and manpower which army possesses. And
no, that was my question. Should we strengthen J&K police and arm with more weaponry or maybe with more personnel so that they can on their own? Because why I am asking is this, because sending of paramilitary forces or induction of central paramilitary forces creates an impression that it is like Indian forces are going there and Pakistan raises and all that. There's a messaging. Perhaps that is why the government of India withdrew 100 companies immediately. So there is a message that there is peace, normalcy is returning to Kashmir. In that context, I am asking this question.
I appreciate what you say, but let's not forget the basic thing that J&K is not like any other state. We are facing a hybrid war, a proxy war, which is aimed at India through Kashmir from a regular recognized country, who is the country which is part of United Nations, and the country which is sponsoring the terrorism to the hilt. It is the Pakistan establishment, the Pakistan Army and Pakistan ISI. They are all involved in this. So response to such a hybrid war originating from Pakistan, we cannot say that it is deployed to respond to that situation from Pakistan, that we are doing something unusual. Had it been a local law and order situation like, some agitation taking place in Haryana or in UP or in some other state, then if we induct paramilitary forces or army there, it is something unusual against our own people, against civilians. That is of course there. We should not do that. We should try to resist that and strengthen the local police. Here in Jammu and Kashmir, while strengthening of local police has been going on, it is a continuous process and it should continue. But at the same time, the situation in J&K is different than mere law and order problem. It's a war which has been going on for the last 30 years, and a war sponsored by a regular army from across the border has to be responded by an effective means, and the effective means is army the paramilitary forces and police
No,
combined, and which has delivered
I'm not.
very good results.
I'm not in any way discounting the role of army. Army has to be there. Paramilitary forces have to be there. But as you said, they support the J&K police. That in that context.
But the strengthening of police, yes, that should be always there. That's an ongoing process, and that should continue. Equipping them with better weapons, having better infrastructure,
Yeah, that's right.
having more numbers.
More training, better training
That's
to maybe
there.
face terrorists. Better training.
Yeah, absolutely. That's part of the entire thing. Yes, that has to happen, and that has to continue, and that's continuing also. That has not been given up. Government of India has never given up that. They have been always increasing the number of IRP battalions. Then the training courses have increased. Our police academy is also catering for lots of courses when they are sent outside the state also for specialized courses. But to say that we should take out the army and paramilitary forces role from this hybrid war situation, that won't be correct. That won't be the correct response.
No, I'm not advocating that. I'm not advocating that.
Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. That's what I see. I agree with you that.
So one last question.
This viewpoint of yours.
My time is running out. One last question. Since you have led the J&K police, how much big is, because I think overground workers have a huge role and they need to be contained because they create the atmosphere. That environment of fear is created by the overground workers. Do you agree on that? Just brief comments.
I will try to be as brief as possible because this is a very large subject. The role of overground workers is slightly there to curb that role. It is not something as easy as eliminating a terrorist. While as in terrorism operations, we have to get the intelligence and then target the terrorist wherever we find or locate the terrorist. But here, it has to be a combined operation. It has to be a combined effort. We have to take care of the radicalization. We have to take care of the separatist propaganda which is going on. Then we have to take care of the development and infrastructure needs of Kashmir. Over last few years, when the rule was imposed in Jammu and Kashmir about 2 years back in 2018, we expected huge development and infrastructure process. There is tremendous potential for employment and for getting the state really prosperous in lots of sectors: the tourism sector, the power sector, the information technology sector, the horticulture, the handicrafts. These sectors have been left totally neglected. If we try and develop these sectors, it will automatically generate the employment for youth. And once the youth find a means of their livelihood and they get busy with their own prosperity and development and progress, I'm sure that the radicalization efforts of the separatists in Pakistan will suffer a huge setback. In absence of that effort, the youth fall easy prey. So we have to address the corruption problem.
Correct.
The institutional corruption. It requires institutional corrective measures. That hasn't been done. The ease of doing business, the ease of addressing the people's problem. The people don't know where to go for their problems, and if they go, they are not sure whether their work will be attended to or their jobs will be done. That the people of Kashmir and Jammu, when I say Kashmir, I mean entire J&K, they have to develop that faith that yes, we're part of a great country, we're part of a great India, which believes in overall development, generation of employment, prosperity of the entire country. And we have to really, it's not only that we have to have intentions of development. The ground should speak for it. Our work should speak for it. It should bring a material change on ground. That is what is going to help us a lot in moving the youth away from falling prey to radicalization and separatist propaganda, and thereby anti-India movement also.
So, sir, we hope that ground will be prepared so that youth are weaned away from terrorism. Thank you so much for participating in this debate, sir.
Thank you.
This is all in the agenda today. Thanks for watching. I'll be back with another important topic tomorrow. Till then, goodbye.